Hello, everybody. I'm Susannah Wellford, and I'm the CEO and founder of Running Start. Our mission is to elect more women to Congress, Republicans, Democrats, and to plant the message early that running for office is something that is doable, something that is incredibly important for more women to do, and something that we think is best started when you're young, to get that training to get you on the path. And we have a very young Congresswoman who's joining us tonight who can talk a little bit about that. Because Women to Watch, our big awards, is virtual for the first time ever, we have decided to do these congressional salons so that we can have really intimate, good talks with some of our favorite Congresswomen. And I am going to introduce you to our moderator and to our panelists. But first, I want to just say a word about the support that we've gotten to not just put on these events and the award show, but to support Running Start in general. We are so lucky to have Laura Siegrist from Walmart here tonight. Walmart has been supporting Running Start since 2009. They are the funders of one of our biggest and, in some ways, most exciting programs. Thank you so much, Laura, for supporting Running Start and supporting the award show. This panel is sponsored by the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates, and we are so thrilled to have them supporting us tonight.
The UAE Embassy in Washington, D.C. is proud to support Running Start. We definitely share your belief in the power of women leaders to transform our world and create a better future.
Thank you very much for those kind words. I am so excited to not only bring three really wonderful Congresswomen here tonight to talk about their jobs and what it's like and why they are doing what they're doing, but also to have one of our absolute star alums, Cierra Jackson, to be the moderator of this panel. Cierra is somebody who we've known for a long time at Running Start. She's a Spelman graduate. She is part of that congressional fellowship that I told you about. She did our congressional fellowship, and it's incredibly exclusive, and you will see that only the very best people get that. And then she went on to actually do the contest that we run at our Young Women to Watch Awards, where we have alums compete in a campaign simulation, and she won it in 2015, right? Nope, 2018. Is that right, Cierra? So Cierra, you will get to hear more from Cierra in a few moments. I am very pleased to have Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs join us from California. Sarah was just sharing that she is one of the younger women in Congress. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much. And then we also have Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne. Beth is from Texas, and Beth was telling us that she was a mayor first and the only female mayor of Irving, Texas, which probably maybe I stole your thunder telling that piece, but I think it's great that you've got that experience. And then Congresswoman Connie Morella, who has always been one of my favorite congresswomen, and she was never her constituent, but she was a congresswoman from Maryland for many, many, many years and has a lot of wisdom about what it's like to run and to serve in Congress. So without further ado, I will stop talking. I will hand you over to Cierra Jackson, and the show can begin.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. It's so exciting to be able to chat with you all and meet you virtually. My name is Cierra Jackson. I'll be the moderator for today's Running Start Congressional Salon. So, Running Start teaches young women that they should run for office because their voices, experiences, and their identities are needed in the halls of power. How do you bring your full, authentic self into your role? And I'm going to pitch that to Congresswoman Beth Van Doon.
I think one of the things that I've done, so I was mentioning this earlier, I had a 2 and a 5-year-old when I first got elected. And I was elected to a nonpartisan role as a city council. Irving, Texas is one of the top 100 largest cities in the country. I went on to be mayor for 6 years, the only woman mayor that the city of Irving has ever had. But one of the things I've always done is I believe in being consistent. No matter what group that you're talking to, feel free to be able to share the same message. How are you going to vote? What are your values? What's your vision? And make sure that you don't change that depending on what group that you're talking to. Sometimes they weren't groups that are of supporters, but I wanted them to hear my authentic self. And part of that is being confident in your decision making, being confident why you actually have an opinion, and being able to defend it. because so many of us have opinions, but you can't really go more than one or two layers deep. And so, I think it's really important that if you have an opinion, make sure that you understand why you have it, that you can defend it, and that you support it regardless of what the majority, on the voting panel believe, or anybody else. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. It's your vote. You have to be confident that you did the right thing under the circumstances and for the right reasons. And I'm a mom. My kids were 2 and 5 when I first got elected. They're a little bit older than that now, but at the end of the day, it's not only me, but I also look at my kids, and there's nothing that I would do, ever want to do that would embarrass them. And so I think just making sure that you are confident in your opinion, why you have it, being unapologetic about it, and being a consistent leader is one of the ways that I think you are authentic, when you legitimately believe what you're saying and can back it up.
I love that. I love that. Now we're going to go to Congresswoman Cierra Jacobs. How do you maintain and bring your full authentic self into your role as one of the youngest Congresswomen?
Well, thank you for the question, and also for putting on this event where I get to say I agree with my colleague. I think that I would rather have my constituents or my voters believe that they trust me and that they know where I stand and think that I agree with them on every issue. And I think that trust is so important, because I think they've elected me for my judgment. And so I want them to know what they're voting for, what they're putting their faith in. And when I think about authenticity, I mean, first of all, I think authenticity is the number one thing voters are looking for right now. I think so often we have this image of like the politician, but really what voters want is someone they can relate to, that they feel is being authentic and genuine and they can trust. And I actually give a lot of credit to the generations of women who came before us who weren't allowed to do that, who had to be perfect. And in being perfect, often then we're seen as cold or uninviting. But because of the barriers they broke, I feel like our generation of women does get to be a little bit freer in how we engage with people. And I've had some tough races in my life where people say pretty horrible things. And the easiest thing to do is like go back inside and shield yourself. And it's a constant struggle actually to maintain openness and continue being out there and being as authentic as you can be, even knowing that those jabs and those barbs are going to come. But I actually think that's the most important thing you can do as a candidate.
Oh, that's incredible. I couldn't agree more. And now for Congresswoman Connie Morella, how do you maintain in your space and being in Congress and having been in Congress, being your full authentic self in the role?
Well, first of all, I associate myself with the comments of my two predecessor speakers, and I congratulate our Congress in having both of them there. You have to have authenticity, as was mentioned. I think you have to have confidence, but I think you need to, first of all, have a purpose. Why do you want to run? What is your purpose? And then a passion to go with it. You do your homework. And I think you need the authenticity of being with the people. I've always found that kindness, listening to people of both sides, even if you may not agree, listen to them, and then you can get your opinion through later on. Kindness, sincerity, availability. All of those things, which come pretty natural to people who are in politics, as the two predecessor speakers have said.
I love that. So being very authentic, knowing how to back up your thoughts, being able to connect with different people, working across the aisle, and being able to really support teamwork. I think all those are great things that everyone can implement if they ever are able to be Congresswomen like yourself. So thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to be transitioning actually to chat more about, well, have more people chat with you. And specifically, we're going to be having our Walmart representative come. So I'd like to invite a representative from the Running Start founding sponsor, Walmart, to ask the next question. Laura, are you available to be able to ask the next question? And I'm going to introduce you as well.
Of course. And thank you, Sierra. Thank you, Running Start, and our special guest for hosting tonight's salon. Walmart, as you said, is a proud sponsor of tonight's event, but also a proud sponsor of the Running Start Walmart Congressional Fellowship that provides talented young women with a once-in-a-lifetime experience of interning on the Hill for role models like yourself, members of Congress. And since its inception in 2009, Walmart and Running Start have placed 145 fellows in the offices of over 80 members of Congress, both sides of the aisle, both chambers. And we have more fellows coming this fall. So on the topic of internships and fellowships, Congresswoman Van Dyne, curious for your advice that you might give to alums on the call who are looking for internships this year.
So many people look at like congressional opportunities, but I would say look at city council, look at mayors, look at school board, look at county judges, commissioners that are in your district. Find out what you're passionate about. Is there an issue that you're passionate about? Is there a topic or something that you want to achieve? Is it working with kids? And figure out what you're most passionate about, and then find out who that person is that most can get into that space, and just start working. But so many people are I think hesitant to take the first step. The people who we love are the ones who are very aggressive, very assertive, very confident, come into our office and like, I want to work here and this is what I want to work on. It's so much easier to take somebody who's got a full amount of energy and like direct it than try to get people energized. So just be assertive, but also make sure that you're creating your own opportunity and not waiting for it to knock on your door.
That's definitely great advice. Thank you. And Congresswoman Jacobs, also have a question for you. Was hoping you could share, did you have an internship that inspired you to run for office, or can you tell us more about that?
It's a good question. And I guess first I should say, being a young woman in politics, that my last internship was a long time ago. And despite what people love to believe, my jobs were real jobs. If you run for office, you'll probably encounter the same kind of minimizing of your experience. I'm hoping that you won't as much as I had to. But I was fortunate to intern for my Senator Barbara Boxer at the time, to intern at the White House. For me, seeing that public service was really helpful, although I didn't think I would run for office after that. I was like, great, I will be the behind the scenes policy person. I went and got a master's degree in international affairs. Worked at the UN and the State Department, and everyone had their favorite West Wing character. Mine was like Kate, the national security advisor, not any of the political people. So it was really only after 2016 when I saw a sea shift, when I was working on the Clinton campaign and we lost. And I realized that the people around me who I'd looked up to my whole life, they didn't have the answers either. And that we were in this new moment that needed new voices. And if I, really wanted to make sure that my generation and that young women and young people were represented, then I had to step up and do it myself.
Great. With our few minutes, I'd like to ask some rapid fire questions. I'll address the questions to each person individually, and please respond in just one sentence if you can. So what was the first moment that made running for office feel worthwhile for you, Congresswoman Cierra Jacobs?
Okay, I don't have one moment, but every time I'm talking to young people, particularly young women, and I can see them start to think about their opportunities differently, that talking to young people and engaging with children and seeing the world through their eyes and helping them see a different path for themselves is always the most rewarding for me.
That's incredible. Awesome. So for Congresswoman Connie Morella, what is the best piece of advice you've gotten from another elected official?
No guts, no glory. That if you don't succeed at something, continue to pursue it, because you will have gained along the way. You will have gained supporters and knowledge, and you can continue to persevere. I look at former members of the former presidents. How many of them have run and lost and run again? And we've forgotten that they ever lost. And more women need to do that, is to keep trying. As I say, no guts, no glory. And frankly, I first got involved not through an internship, it was through the women's movement. Before any of you were born, I was lobbying on a commission for women where I was president in Maryland, and I was lobbying for the Equal Rights Amendment, which had come from Congress from a woman from Michigan, Martha Griffiths, and she had done it through a discharge petition again, women in Congress know how to do it. They know how to find a way. So it will not go to a committee, go right to the floor for passage. So I frankly started lobbying for passage by the Maryland legislature of this constitutional amendment. And then I thought, hey, I think I need to go there. I need to have a seat at the table, or I might be on the menu. Or as Shirley Jackson said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And so that's what got me involved with politics and running for office.
I love that. I love Shirley Chisholm. She's one of my favorite congresswomen. So I love that you mentioned that quote. And last but certainly not least, Congresswoman Beth Van Doon, what is one piece of self-care advice that you would give to others?
Gosh, that's a great question. Make sure you understand what you prioritize. Family, friends, your relationship with God. Make sure you make room for those. I think so often women take everybody else's feelings and time into account. They want to care for other people and they forget to do it for themselves. And then you end up run down, exhausted, and you are not nearly as good for anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself. So that advice that you get when you come onto a plane, when the mask drops, put yours on first before you can help anybody else. Make sure you're actually doing it, because so often than not, we just don't prioritize ourselves, our health, our needs, our emotional needs, our rest. You need to do that.
I love that. I love that. So we have a little bit more time, and I do want to ask you all a few questions. So Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, were you ever discouraged, and how were you able to overcome that and encourage yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, to the point that I can't remember which of my colleagues said before, I actually lost my first race. And I lost by 1%. It was a hard fought race. That was, one of those very expensive primaries, very, very tough fought. And I kind of thought I was done. I tried. I was going to go back to being a policy person, and I'd find other ways to make an impact. And then when my predecessor announced her retirement and reached out, I felt like it was important that I step up again. But, running and putting yourself out there, and especially we as women who I think are even more sensitive to that kind of criticism and all of that, it was really difficult to realize that I'd put my whole true self out there and still came up short. And it took a while for me to figure out my next steps and to even be open to putting myself out there again in the same way.
So for Congresswoman Beth Van Doon, I still have the same question for you as well. Was there ever a moment in your experience running for Congress, or even just being a Congresswoman, where you were discouraged, and how were you able to encourage yourself in that space?
It's amazing when you run for Congress. You have a letter next to your name, so you kind of take on all the enemies of that party. But when you run on your own, in a nonpartisan race, everything is really personal. And like I said, I had a 2 and a 5-year-old. I remember getting on stage for the first time during a debate, and one of the first questions that was asked to me is, "Well, how can you do both? How can you be a mother and be on council?" And I remember getting up and asking. There was 4 dads who were on the stage with me, and I said, "I really hope that you are asking the dads the same exact question." But I also remember somebody told me that I should put my hair back in a bun, not wear makeup, wear glasses, and I should have a shtick, like wearing and this was not that long ago, and wear an apron because I could be the mom candidate. And I remember, I don't have to put on an act. I don't have to put on a costume. I am the mom candidate.
Right.
So
I got told, not to jump in, but I got told to wear a bikini in an ad like 2 years ago.
It's that kind of things that you would never hear from a guy. But at the same token, what I did tell people was, don't ever run based on identity politics. I said, don't ever vote for me because I'm a woman. You're never going to see me run on that. Vote for me because I'm the most prepared, I'm the most dedicated, I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I have morals, principles, and a vision that you can get behind. So, regardless of where we come from, we always have to make sure that we're prepared, that we're strong, that we're confident, and you're willing to take the risk. because as was mentioned before, lots of negative things are going to be said against you. You can't take it personally. Realize it's part of being a candidate. It's going to happen. You're not going to be able to make everybody happy all the time. Literally almost every single vote you make, half the people are going to be happy with it. The other half are going to be mad about it. And then you're just going to have to live with that and make sure you're being true to yourself.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And for the final question I have, same question for Congresswoman Connie Morella. Has there ever been a moment for you in your career where you were discouraged, whether as a Congresswoman or in another facet, and how were you able to encourage yourself?
Many. There have been many moments. Uh, as a matter of fact, some of the votes that I cast, I would even have people sending notes to my kids saying, I don't know why your mother did that. And I would have threats sometimes by virtue of what I voted, how I voted, or what I said. But I found that if you just be honest with yourself and honest with your constituents, that even if they disagreed with you, they respected the fact that you arrived at your decision in a thoughtful manner, thinking of country, constituents, and conscience. Be honest with them, that you be available to them too, to be willing to explain. I can remember I would once in a while, when there was a nasty note that would come in, a staffer would say, gee, Congresswoman Morella, I can't answer this. This is a nasty letter. So I'd say, well, just write a phone number down and put it on my desk. And sure enough, maybe the next night we would have a session on the floor with special orders. And so I'd pick up the phone and I'd call, and usually it was a male, and I'd say, well, Mr. Dorn, I just want you, Connie Morella, and then we a pause. And I'd say, I'm in my office. And then we still no response. And I said, I just want you to know, I read the letter that you wrote. And then I would get one of two answers. First of all, oh, I didn't think you'd read it. And the second one was, honestly, I didn't mean what I said. And so I would, discuss it with him. And he would say, thank you, Congresswoman, for calling. Thank you. Well, then ultimately what would happen, and why I'm mentioning this, is I think personal connection is important. He would later tell his Rotary, he would tell his Kiwanis Club, he would tell his whatever the club was he belonged to. He would say, the Congresswoman personally called me, not even talking about the issue. So I think being available, connecting with your constituents, they will respect you, and you're going to have controversy, but that's what it's about.
And that still happens. That still happens. When I call, I always call the nastiest letters I get. You always call like, and somehow that's that keyboard warrior when you're talking, not nearly Betsy. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. Well, I know that Congresswoman Cierra Jacobs has to leave, but we want to say thank you so much for joining us. And we have a few more questions for the audience, from the audience as well. If any of you all are still able to stay with us. And we thank you so much, Congresswoman Cierra Jacobs, for taking the time out to join us today as well. And we have one more question from audience member Lucinda Robb, who asks, what most surprises you about how Congress works?
First of all, I suggest that you all become members of the Women's Congressional Policy Institute. I think knowing other women gives you that kind of sense of strength. And even if you disagree, you don't have to get involved with discussions where you disagree, but you know them, you get to know them. And I think this helps. What I found difficult, and I guess some of it still prevails, but not as much as it used to, is that you were very prepared for the issues, and you ask a question at a hearing, and the chairman of the committee, I said chairman of the committee said, well, thank you very much, Connie. And then a colleague, another member of Congress, would ask the same kind of question, give the same answer, or ask the same question, give the same answer I gave, and the chairman would say, "Oh, Congressman Smith, brilliant. Let the record show it." So then the answer we need to give, and I began to do that, was, oh, gee, I'm so glad that he said that, because it's exactly what I said. And I'm just, now we'll go into the record. So I guess what I'm saying is that I've seen an evolution, but yet not to total fruition of being taken seriously. And that's why doing homework is important. and speaking up in a very diplomatic way, but speaking up.
I agree wholeheartedly with what she said. But I think one of the things that has really troubled me in the last few months is I had a very divided council, but we were able to focus on policy issues and on things that would bring us together. So yeah, we would have, very vicious debates at times that would fall down into the area of personality. But at the same time, that may be on one project, but on projects that we could all find areas that we could agree, whether or not that was on public safety or infrastructure, or moving forward with, a particular, economic development plan. What's kind of, surprised me, and I guess not such a surprise, but that it's as bad as it is the partisanship. It seems like no matter what side of the aisle you're on, the other side is not part of your. And that's been a little shocking that it's as bad as it is. I would think that we could find common ground. We're never going to find 100%, but if we're looking at a bill and in 50% of the bill we can all agree upon, let's move forward on that 50%, and then let's hold back the other 50 and have a debate on it. Let's discuss it. And again, I have picked a very unique time to become a freshman in Congress. I don't think our first 3 months has ever happened before in the history of our country. So, we're getting a little bit more intense feelings of partisanship, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to move forward beyond that and really focus on policies over parties. And we're looking at people and what we can do over personalities. That's my hope.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you both so much for giving that feedback to us and sharing that with us, and also for sharing your time, giving us all of this advice and encouragement for all the young women who one day want to be congresswomen just like you all. So thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it over to Susannah.
Thank you so much for being such a wonderful moderator. And Congresswomen, it's just so awesome to hear your real life stories, because we talk to the young women we train about what it's like to be in Congress, what it's like to be a mayor or city councilwoman. But I've never been those things, and so we bring you all in so you can talk about what it's really like what the experience is like, the fact that it's hard but you can live through it. And I have to tell you, I am never going to forget certain things that came out of tonight. I mean, the fact that Congresswoman Van Dyne was told to wear an apron, and that Congresswoman Jacobs was told to wear a bikini. That was crazy. And then Congresswoman Morella, the idea that you call those people who write you nasty letters. I mean, I remember working on the Hill and getting, reading those letters and just being so appalled. And the idea that you'd pick up the phone, I absolutely love that. And I think that, of course, that is the way to win people to you, is you have a conversation, you have dialogue. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And we have a video from Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, who, by the way, she's a Running Start alum.
Hi, Running Start. It's Congresswoman Lauren Underwood from the Illinois 14th District. I am so excited to be with you for this year's Young Women to Watch Award ceremony. I'd first like to thank all of the incredible leaders on the Running Start board. You all have done extraordinary work during exceptionally difficult times. And yet here we are once again, recognizing the incredible leadership of young women across this country. I decided to run for office because of healthcare and a promise that my congressman made around protecting healthcare for people like me with pre-existing conditions. You may come to this work, you may decide to run for office for a different but equally important reason. Whatever brings you here, I want you to have the confidence to see it the way through, because guess what? Our country needs your leadership. And during these really challenging times, this is when our voices are so strong and so powerful to bring change and make a difference. So I'm grateful to have resources like Running Start. I'm an alum, and I am grateful for this incredible network of women supporting the visionary leadership all across the country, particularly of other young women like me who stepped up and run for office. I look forward to supporting your campaigns and serving with you, hopefully in the Congress one day. And until then, take good care of yourselves, everybody. Bye-bye.